Americans shifting blame to Democrats for Schumer shutdown. Well, to be more accurate, I'm gonna fix the title. Americans shift more blame to Democrats because the American people already knew and rightfully so were blaming the Democrats for the shutdown. But more and more Americans are now blaming Democrats is what it should say, which would be more accurate. And it's true because all they have to do is vote for the clean CR and the government will be back open. But what they're doing is holding the American people, they're holding us hostage to try to pass something that people already voted on. Meaning we voted for this because we put Trump in office. We have the we put Republicans in power in the House. We put them in power in the Senate, and they passed the OBB, one big beautiful bill. And Democrats are butthurt about it. They're upset, and they talk about democracy, but when the people have spoken, they want to hold the government hostage to try to get what they want. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to look at the polls, but before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. There's a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Conservative Brief, and they report that a new YouGov The Economist poll finds that Americans continue to place more blame on Republicans than Democrats for the ongoing government shutdown, though the margin between the two parties is narrowing. According to the survey, 39% of respondents say President Trump and congressional Republicans are responsible for the shutdown, compared to 33% who blame Democrats in Congress, and a 6-point difference. The results mark a slight shift from earlier polling that showed a wider gap in public opinion. Last week, the gap between the two parties stood at 11 points, with 41% of respondents blaming President Trump and congressional Republicans, and 30% blaming Democrats in Congress, according to YouGov The Economist. In the latest poll, 20% of respondents say they hold both sides equally responsible for the shutdown, a slight decrease from 23% the previous week. The shift in public opinion comes as the federal government approaches its third week of the shutdown, with negotiations between the two parties showing little progress towards resolution, the Hill reported. Democrats are pushing to include an extension of Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies in any deal to end government shutdown. The subsidies are set to expire at the end of the year, a move that would increase insurance premiums for millions of Americans. Republicans have said they will not negotiate on the health care subsidies until Democrats agree to support their proposal to reopen government. It should also be noted that GOP majority in the House has passed a clean continuing resolution, but Senate rules require 60 votes for most legislation, while the GOP also controls the upper chamber, there are only 53 Republicans. 2 Democrats and 1 independent who caucuses with Democrats have consistently voted with majority Republicans to pass the continuing resolution. However, most Democrats are following Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's direction and opposing the measure, essentially leaving his party responsible for the continuing shutdown. Again, it's obvious. And the shutdown continues. Independent voters appear to be driving the shift in public opinion, contributing to the narrowing gap between which party is seen as more responsible for the ongoing standoff. In the poll, 26% of independent voters say they blame Democrats for the shutdown, up from 17% of the previous week. Blame directed at President Trump and congressional Republicans declined slightly, falling from 41% last week to 38% this week. Meanwhile, the share of independents who hold both parties equally responsible dropped from 32% to 27%. Meanwhile, a poll from Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs Research, AP Nork, continued in mid-October and released Thursday, found that 58% of U.S. adults believe former President Trump bears a great deal or quite a bit of responsibility for the government shutdown. An equal 58% say the same about Republicans in Congress, while 54% attribute similar responsibility to Democrats in Congress. But a Reuters Ipsos poll taken at the beginning of October found Americans feeling Republicans were less to blame for the shutdown, ABC News reported this week. And that's the poll I was going with when I stated at the beginning that the majority of Americans are blaming the Democrats, except for some of these other polls that are, I believe, oversampling and stuff like that is happening there. But when that survey asks who is most to blame for the failure to reach a deal that led to the shutdown, respondents were evenly divided between Democrats in Congress and former President Trump, while Republicans in Congress received less blame. According to the survey, 37% of respondents said Democrats in Congress were most responsible. 37% pointed to Trump and 19% blamed Republicans in Congress. However, the poll also found that 63% of Americans believe Democrats in Congress deserve, quote, at least a fair amount of blame for the shutdown, the same percentage who said the same of former President Trump. A slightly higher 67% said Republicans in Congress share at least a fair amount of responsibility. But again, I'm gonna fix the title. I think a lot of these polls are oversampled when it comes to Democrats and stuff like that. I think the blame is definitely on the Democrats. Just the mainstream media is protecting and caping and putting out propaganda for the Democrats. Is the reason why those polls aren't looking as high as they as it really should be. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.